There are so many different types of videos I could be making this moment in terms of tone. Some people are black-pilled. Some people are ready to fight the next American Revolution. And they probably have a pretty good reason, kind of, you look at what's going on. And there's so many things to focus on. So much bullshittery. So many insults to common intelligence. And on top of that, you've got just parades of mindless morons dunking on, basically Trump supporters for being angry when they really actually have no idea why they're angry, because they're completely unaware of the fraud. Because if you ask the news, it's a baseless accusation. It's dumb. So I'm gonna talk about one thing specifically that I actually did just a little bit of digging on, and I'm gonna present some theories that I'm not saying this is the case for sure. But what I am saying is that this is the kind of stuff that we need to investigate, because it is not impossible, and in fact, it's, at this point, plausible. So, what's going on in Michigan? If you can read that, then great. But if not, I'm going to let her tell you. She's the GOP chair, and I believe the Bloomfield Hills, whatever county that was, it's their clerk, actually, who caught what was happening. So, this is the quick version.
If all this wasn't enough, in Antrim County, ballots were counted for Democrats that were meant for Republicans, causing a 6,000 vote swing against our candidates. The county clerk came forward and said tabulating software glitched and caused a miscalculation of the votes. Since then, we have now discovered that 47 counties use this same software in the same capacity. Antrim County had to hand count all of the ballots, and these counties that use this software need to closely examine their results for similar discrepancies. The people of Michigan deserve a transparent and open process.
It's not just Michigan that uses this software, and it's a software hardware suite, from what I understand, and it's made by Dominion Voting, and they call it the Democracy Suite. It's kind of funny how all these mistakes go just one direction. I've heard a couple different versions of this story. As they investigate, we'll find out. One was that the tabulator is the thing that somehow just tabulated wrong, and not just wrong, it also just completely changed votes from straight Republican to straight Democrat. Which we know, that's not like a shift of deviation or a corruption in the lettering. That has to be deliberate, because when you go fill out your ballot, it's not binary. It's not like all the ones became zeros or the ones became twos, because it was like an options thing. A's became B's. No, there's Republicans, Democrats, Independent. There's a lot of things to screw up there, and it's just funny that they all screwed up to be moving from the Republican to the Democrat. I wonder why. I wonder why that happened. It's obviously not a glitch. It's obviously a feature. And whether it's in the software, whether it's a corruption or a hacking into the tabulation, whether it's in actually the machines, let me show you the places it's used. This guy is from the Democracy Suite online, from their website. And, ain't that funny. I believe in my county, we used one of their counting machines that you feed the ballots through. I'm not 100% sure, but I've seen the pictures of the machines, and they look identical to the ones I used. Of course, I didn't bother to bend down and look at what the thing on the side said, because it's like black plastic, and I didn't think that would be something that would come up. But I'm fairly certain that's what was used in my county. And again, what it is, it's like paper ballot goes in, and then electronic info comes out, so you don't know really what the deal is. Because it could just skew stuff to 5%, 3% in whatever way, and just would not know. And that happening in one place in Michigan because a tabulator, something's flipping like that. That's not something that just is anomaletic. Like it's not just like, oh, that just happened that one time. We have no idea what happened. No, that means that means not only is it likely happening pretty much everywhere? It means it can happen. Like that means the whole thing's into question. What do you mean? You just with a normal chain of data transfer, the normal chain of command, the normal chain of custody, on its own, somehow 6,000 votes got flipped. It might be like 3,000 because they're saying they gave it 6,000 vote advantage. So it might have been like 3,000 Republicans going to 3,000 Democrats. So it would have been like minus 3,000 plus 3,000. So that might be what they mean by that. But either way, it's like the fact that can happen, and it took somebody in a small county, just kind of giving it the stink eye and wondering what the hell's wrong. Maybe having taken better note of the numbers, on a piece of paper, and then doing a manual recount. That, yeah, like we how many other places has this occurred? I mean, it's probably occurred all over Texas. Maybe it just was insurmountable. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's just one of those ones where it was such a blowout where they didn't bother. I mean, maybe that's why. I mean, yeah, remember they stopped the counting in the middle of the night because Trump was up in like everywhere pretty much. Majority of California counties use that. Isn't that interesting? What party always seems to win in California? I'm just wondering. Who always seems to win in California? Just maybe. Could it also coincidentally be the party that always wins in New York and New Jersey? Now, I'm saying that knowing fully well that Texas and Florida also utilize the machines, and it's on a county by county basis. Just they happen to mention that basically Dominion essentially. I think it's the majority of California counties use the Dominion suite. Obviously, I would say I'm pretty sure the ones around my area in Montgomery County, which is adjacent to Philadelphia, Delaware County, like they were using it. And I'm sure other places, like, Virginia was using them. We saw weird stuff happening in Virginia, like house things flipping after the fact. Well, after, like, days later, like earlier today. oh, yeah, you know how that election was decided? Because we stopped counting and then we just added 500,000 Biden votes and then just called it quits. No, we're still counting. We're actually gonna move some state house seats to Democrats. I mean, who would have thought? I mean, just days later, just change the numbers. It's insane, I mean, and anybody who can't see what the hell's going on here, it's like, guys, this not only is it obvious fraud. Fine, maybe you don't believe. Maybe you think everything's being done above board. A computer just did this, and if you want to say the Democrats set it up or didn't set it up, fine. But a computer just did that then on its own. There's a glitch in the software that can add 6,000 votes to or subtract 3,000 from one candidate and give 6,000 to the other candidate. I mean, could you imagine that? Like, could you imagine that with Trump? Right? Oh man, shit! We got machines popping up in swing states that they're just changing Democrats' votes to. It doesn't even say Trump; it changes it to the orange man. Which is synonymous with Trump. So we're going to award those votes to him. I mean, could you imagine the absolute nightmare that would? I mean, just the autistic screeching, and rightfully so, because it'd be like, whoa, what is going on here? I'm fairly certain Trump's above cheating, but I wouldn't put it out of because if this kind of stuff's happening, it's like some Republicans gonna be on the take too. They're all it's money talks. My point now I'm gonna get into is machine did that. Did the drive get switched? The encrypted drive get switched and then or copied and then switched with one that had the changes and then the tabulator screwed up. Is there something in the whole software system that does that? Is the data that goes in bad? Because, garbage in, garbage out. I don't know. We don't know. We'll have to figure out what happened. But what I'm saying is that we have to look at, here's Dominion voting. They are technically 100% American-owned. They used to be Canadian-owned because I think one of the founders was American, so it would have been like half and half. They were based in Ontario. That's where they got their start. And then they expanded and they did stuff. They run pretty much Canada's elections. What party usually wins there? Huh? But beside the point. But they were kind of a success story. Basically, they got started. They got their start in '03. One article says they've been making machines for 100 years. They started in '03, so I don't know what the hell they're talking about there. And then they're selling voting machines, electronics, encrypted stuff, right? Okay, cool, great. Where's the list of their software development? So I know their stuff gets certified with the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, but like Georgia was reporting that like these machines got software updates in the morning, and like there was no oversight to like wouldn't you think like that's the kind of thing that like if it was even allowed to happen that the U.S. Election Assistance Commission would have like a record of, because it's like approving like 1.0 versus 1.2. This isn't a a freaking StarCraft update. This is something. this is the kind of things where the software is changing and bad things can happen. And also, don't you think it's a little dumb to test to have the software update on the morning of? A lot of places did actually. They opened about 45 minutes late because there was some sort of problem with the software update. And the problem is that there's so many stories about this. It's hard to kind of track down what's what. I mean, some of it could have been stuff that wasn't the Dominion stuff. It could have been one of the other software providers. Either way, there was problems in places, and the idea that updates are occurring on the day of the vote, that should have raised all kinds of flags. But what we do know is that a Dominion software chain somewhere changed at a minimum of 3,000 Trump Republican votes to 3,000 Biden Democrat votes, and that's also assuming that the data that the lady was reading wasn't also like screwed with somehow, So, I guess she's basing that based on the hand count. So that probably, they're saying, oh, it's a glitch in the tabulator. It's not a glitch. It's not the kind of thing that occurs with a glitch. A glitch is like it prints it on the wrong line, or if you hit the wrong, if it totals 69 votes, the whole thing crashes or something. That's a glitch. Them flipping the votes from Republican to Democrat, that's not a glitch. That's clearly impropriety. It's silly. It's silly to suggest otherwise. So that needs to be looked into. Now, the issue, who does their software development? I'd love to think it was in-house, but I know how these things go. This stuff modern stuff gets basically subcontracted out, and it's getting subcontracted out. I doubt that it's being subcontracted just to Canadian and American firms, and of those firms, they probably still use subcontracting as well. There needs to be a better chain of accountability. The fact I can't go on this website and then they can get like a thing from the U.S. Election Assistance Commission and say, this was 100% developed by, Americans, and it was oversaw by like the NSA looked at it and all these other, like a chain of like certifications so we know what's going on. Because here's the thing. Suppose they're just outsourcing something completely innocuous, like a menu option, right, or some graphic GUI element, right? And they outsource it to subcontractor A, and subcontractor A gets their guy to go do it, and their guy is the cheapest way, which is some jerk in Beijing. This stuff's tracked by the Chinese. You don't think that they're going to immediately say that's our way in? They're not too incompetent to do something like that. Now, I mean, it's tough, but that could very well be the case. Not to mention the fact that, you could just hack into their system. If it's connected to the internet, if it has the ability to update, or if, the information is being distributed anywhere, people can hack and screw with stuff. Another thing is once you get something that's this wide scale, they've got so many machines, they've got so many different places deploying the software and this hardware. Do you think the Chinese embassy in San Francisco, they might be able to slip some money to somebody and maybe take a little bit of this hardware, software off their hands and ship it over to Shanghai to be reverse engineered and fucked with? Just saying, when it's widespread, this is the kind of thing that happens. I mean, this is why like if you develop a weapon system and you want to widely implement it, it's tough. Like eventually, someone is going to basically get a copy, get a hold of it, whether it's because you guys lose it or it's the wreckage of it, or just it's stolen. Something's going to happen. They're going to basically be able to get a look at it and try to reverse engineer it. So every time you invent something, it's like, well, this is great, but we only have the edge for so long before basically the bad guys figure out also how to do it, or at least they figure out a counter. It's no different with voting machines. A voting machine really needs to honestly be as secure as a top-secret weapon system. You wouldn't want to hand over the plans to the F-22 Raptor over to the Chinese any more than you would want to hand them a voting machine made by Dominion Voting or any of these other places. It should actually be, if you're going to do electronic counting, it should be, unbelievably secure. Some people were suggesting, internet everything, make it all be blockchain. I think blockchain with receipts, probably not a bad idea. I mean, issue being, will somebody eventually figure out a way to screw with it? Maybe. There's Bitcoin and there's that other one that's like doesn't have it. It's like completely untraceable. There's like no transaction records or anything. And and then that makes you like, oh, wait a minute. But if people are just inputting stuff, I don't know. There might be a better way to do it. Hand counting, I hate to say, that actually seems like that's the most reliable way, because that takes a lot of people. So in order for there to be like major corruption, you have to have a lot of people all at once corrupting, and then you have people hanging over each other's shoulders, and like it's harder to mess with stuff. You only see that in like Chicago, right, where they throw the poll walkers out, the poll watchers out, the poll workers. We could use some of those in our life, couldn't we? That's kind of what they're doing now, but they're doing it even easier because it's electronic counting. I mean, if they didn't have electronic counting, they couldn't just at 4:30 a.m. say, boom, 123,000 votes in Wisconsin and 7,000 in Michigan, and like just dropping those for Biden just out of nowhere at 4:30 a.m. Like in their little time span they had that they were recounting. Like you could do that with like electronic counts, but you can't do that with physical counts because you actually have to go through things. Like at least make the voter fraud difficult. At least make them have to like go out of their way to like actually physically make something. Because if it's electronic and you're seeing stuff flip like this, that's really screwy. And again, I put my ballot in the old Dominion. Oh my God, the Dominion voting machine, and it goes in and it says, okay, thumbs up. And you go, oh, okay. And it says vote counted, but what it doesn't tell you like who it went for. Is it okay? Because if you like send it through and it like doesn't pick up because like it doesn't like the Sharpie or something, you don't know it because it'll feed, because you can feed it by basically you can get a ballot and just not vote for anything and just push it through as a protest vote. And there's people who do that, and so it's able to take a blank ballot. It doesn't say like, oh, you didn't vote for anything. That's a problem. It doesn't care. It's just like whatever. So the machine's not supposed to. Apparently they care if you vote for the Republicans. It might just be like, I think you should have voted for the Democrats. I'm just gonna change that if you don't mind. Oh, you didn't notice? Good. All right. These guys should be involved with the investigating into this, and this is a lot of egghead kind of stuff, and it's gonna be really hard to get our heads around what's going on. But what's not hard to get our heads around is basically the idea of that software is flipping votes from straight Republican to straight Democrat with absolutely no explanation. And there's a problem now that it's like, okay, by some miracle, it only happened in this one tiny-ass county in Michigan, and it only favored one candidate. It's like, now, when there's this many of these things, we'd be seeing similar glitches if that were the case, going all different directions. But we're not. We're going to be seeing it. We're going to be seeing stuff get shaved for Biden constantly. I mean, imagine what that would do to the Nevada race, right? Yeah. Oh, Clark County. Yeah, they sound familiar. I mean, just imagine what that would do right now. All these races are like super tight. It might change things completely. Virginia, Pennsylvania, Georgia. I mean, come on, guys. Like the fact that there wasn't an absolute murderous blowout in Texas, that it was actually only 5 points, is really kind of insane when you see the way the demographics went. So it makes you kind of wonder, makes you like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me Trump can go into a Latino county and draw a crowd of like 30,000 people, and then he's going to somehow barely win or barely lose that county of like a handful of people, when, you know, like the Latinos are like all about it. They're like, yeah, you know, keep out the illegals because we got here legally. You know, it's very strange, you know, and when you see like that kind of stuff happening, and the fact that one person was able to catch this, and, you know, guys, you think we're not going to notice? With these other places, maybe they don't. That's the other thing, because it's once you're done counting, it's like, you know, oh, that vote total goes somewhere, you know, unless you double check on everything, which really every single county in this country, including the Democrat counties that are small counties that are definitely Democrat, you guys got to go back and count and check this, because the problem is that even if Biden won handily and Democrats won handily in your county, if that machine was changing stuff for people who were voting for Trump or were voting for Republican to Biden, you've now disenfranchised those people, and you cannot govern over them. Even if you've won despite basically what happened, you've disenfranchised these people, and you have to remedy that, because that's not fair. That's not what you agree to. You would not be happy if that happened to your side, and you can't just say, oh nope, shut up. It's not widespread enough, or that wasn't enough votes to flip the election. Guys, it doesn't matter. This story alone should be enough to shatter the whole election. And it's kind of the tip of the iceberg of all the BS we've been seeing. So I want to talk about Dominion voting for just a little bit. They were bought out by Staple Street Capital. They have like two different funds. One is 100% American owned. The other one's 16% foreign owned. I don't know if that crosses over. I don't know how their funds are set up. I just know they own a bunch of different things, and it's actually... everything from I can see, they seem above board. There's nothing suspicious about the collection of countries. They also own Cyberlink. This was the only company that's technically relevant to Dominion, would be something like Cyberlink. But they also, you know, but their text, it is a different market. It's just that it was also in electronics. I thought I should point that out. Where is their? There we go. So this is their portfolio of all the stuff, and as you can tell, it's, you know, I don't know why. I don't know how much Dominion's worth. One article I saw, they were saying, "Oh, the whole market's only $300 million." And I'm looking at the stuff now, and I'm like, nah, there's a lot more money than that involved. So maybe they were, you know, maybe this was a good buy for them when they bought it, which they did last year, which I find kind of interesting. And now they're probably regretting that now, right? They're probably taking a lot of service calls. But this seems okay to me. You know, we got basically duct filters. Was it supplies? What do they do? Pipes, valves. So it's like, you know, tools, service, theme parks, manufacturer, distributor. What do they do? Packaging, consumer packaging goods, flavors, fragrance. Like, so, you know, it's just a mix of these different things. That way, if one industry basically tanks, the whole portfolio doesn't go one way or another. It's not like, oh, it's a tech portfolio, or it's a strictly military portfolio, like weapons portfolio or something like that. It's just a diverse. I think it's like a $5 million buy-in or something. This to me, this doesn't scream like, oh my god, the Chinese. This doesn't. This looks perfectly normal. And really, I hope that these guys are realizing, like, oh god, something down the line, because if this were part of my portfolio and I was seeing what was happening with them right now, I'd be on the phone trying to fix what was going on as well, because this kind of scandal could tank this entire company, and whatever they paid for it last year, they ain't gonna get it back unless they fix what's going on. And the only way they can redeem themselves is by being completely transparent. And the things they should be doing really is basically, because I know Staple Street are not going to know what's going on with the software or the machines. The only people who are going to know what's going on with that was Dominion, who I kind of doubt are in on it. I don't think they would risk their entire fortune, especially the guy who created it is the VP. Like, I don't think he would risk the entire thing and all his foreign clients on making it defective and so spottable. I don't think they would do that. So I don't think it's Dominion is doing this. You know, it's not tinfoil hats. The companies, I don't think they have anything to do with it. But what Staple Street can do is they can go in and they can say, guys, you have to give us a list of essentially who you subcontracted out as programmers, and then we'll look at that and we'll try to backtrack that. We'll try to follow the money, that kind of stuff. And then while Staple Street's doing something like that to make sure basically that it wasn't foreigners weren't involved in basically setting up the software, Dominion can look in and try to find out what's going on with their software, if it's been, basically what happened. And then obviously the Election Assistance Commission, CIA, Air Force cyber threat people, they should be looking into, obviously this was fucked with. We got to find out how it was fucked with. And more importantly, we got to find out how it was fucked with. And then we have to find out who fucked with it. And, was it the Democrats? Wouldn't put it past them. Could it also have been, the Chinese, or could it have been just? I mean, that's the thing. It could be unrelated to the mail-in voter fraud that the Democrats are committing right now. This actually could be completely unrelated to that. This could be, we want to see. We're going to check the numbers, and we're going to see if this shit happened, and it's some other random country that's like screwing with it, because they're basically like, we can influence the election. We're going to test. We're going to flip some votes in some counties and figure out, just see if that actually affected it. Because you'd be looking, because you're like, okay, well, Dominion, if they're growing at this rate, they're probably going to be in more places the next 4 years. So then but then again, they could have been compromised from 2003 for all we know. Probably not. I'm not accusing them of this, but that's a major problem, and that's one of the things a lot of people complain about electronic voting for. And I think the problem with electronic voting is that we don't utilize... right now, everything with electronic voting, I should say, not everything, but most things with electronic voting, we get it goes into the magical box, and it does some magical calculations, and then it gives us a number. It's not that simple. It's supposed to be encrypted. I'm sure, cybersecurity experts are like, oh, that's super. But really, we're not utilizing the things that electronics are really good at, which is record keeping and receipts, data trail. That's the stuff electronics are really good at. So, we should really, that's really where we should be, like if it's encrypted, like I should get everybody should have a voter ID number, right? And it could be on your license even, or if you wanted to, it could just be your driver's license number. Maybe something that's not public. And you put your thing in, and you get a printed receipt, and the printed receipt has a basically vote number, with probably a bunch of letters and stuff, and then a key code. That's, another encrypted thing, like a thing on the back of your credit card. And then it shows you basically a little printout of your ballot. It doesn't have to be the whole ballot. It can just say like the name, whatever the thing was for, the name of who you voted for. It just does it all the way kind of down the line. It could just be, it could be a receipt that's like this big. It doesn't have to be really complicated. And then what you would be able to do is you would be able to, maybe it would take, until they start counting, but you would be able to go online to, something secure, like a blockchain website, and you put in that receipt's information, and you put in the little security code, and then you put in your voter ID number so that it knows, so you're basically double checking, and then it pops up on there, and it says, yep, got it, here it is. And then someone on the website can look, and they can see all the votes, but they can't see the vote IDs or anything like that. They can just kind of scroll through, and they can figure out, or I should say, they can see the number that's the receipt number. What they can't see is the voter ID that it's attached to. So your vote is public. Somebody can go see your ballot the way you voted, but what they can never see is who did it. So it's completely anonymous. And then everybody gets to look at what's going in. That way, if somehow there's like 100,000 Biden votes that all go into the system at once, and they just have the top filled out, or they're all exactly the same, and there's something weird about it, the whole crowd of people, everybody can now analyze that data and look at it. That would be the way to. That's really that's where we are at technologically, and we don't do it. Why don't we do it? Because here's the thing: if it doesn't have to be, the whole country has to do this. No, just one, one company, one group of counties and states. Just try it small first. Try it small. And when they, they're going to work out the bugs, figure out what the deal is. Is it hackable? No, nothing is impenetrable. We know pretty much nothing is impenetrable. But if we can see it, it's like when somebody hacks a website and they put up a picture of somebody's ass, right? We all see the ass. We see the hack. We can see that something is wrong. And it would be the same way with the votes, where you'd be looking basically in the database to see your vote, if it matches what's going on. And you look and you go, oh, it's good. But then you look and you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't match. This isn't how I voted. Then you know there's some kind of thing where you see just like a chain of votes that are just really suspicious, And then you can say, hey, it says people all voted at the same time. Like, they voted all within, like, 1 minute of each other, and it was, like, 100,000 people in one district. Like, what's up with that? They'll say, oh, well, we had early votes to count. Yeah, I don't know about that, guys. So, like, that would make cheating so much harder. It's not that it would completely eliminate it, because there's always ways to screw with stuff. But you would have so much more confidence that your vote was counted. Because right now, my vote goes into the Dominion voting machine, and it smiles at me, and then I have no idea if it was counted or not. I'd love to, for the local GOP to, actually do something about that, but, you call them in their voicemail line, just says, there are no issues with voting for Sharpies. Your vote was counted. It's like, yeah, I mean, you're saying my vote was counted, but you can't prove that my vote was counted. And that's a problem. That's a huge problem. So this should be a good opportunity to kind of like learn this stuff this is bad. This is bad. I don't understand why Democrats, they like it because they're getting the outcome they want. Like the average Democrat, they're just like, oh, it's sour grapes. It's like, guys, this whole system's been completely jacked up, and it's like you guys further complicated it with the mail-in stuff, but the electronic stuff isn't secure either, and we've been saying that. You guys kept saying, oh, it was the Russians trying to hack. It's like, well, we know the Russians try to hack into shit all the time, but, like, that's the point. Like, there's no accountability, I mean, it took somebody on the ground calling out the fact that that numbers didn't match up, and then doing a hand recount to be able to prove that there was impropriety. When if there was receipts now, you would just be able to look online and be able to see what it was. If the data was made public, like why is this? Why I don't understand why the news networks and the polling stations are the only ones who like have the data, and then the data that the public gets is either filtered through the news or it's off of the state websites, and they never match up. So it's like, well, what's the actual numbers? I don't know. Who's leading in Arizona right now? Is it Biden or is it Trump? Depends on who you ask. We don't know. Michigan, which has been called for Joe Biden, according to the state website, Trump's still leading by like a significant margin. This is awful. This is awful, and Democrats really need people who are not full TDS, they're just maybe low info voters or just whatever. They see things differently for whatever reason. They should be able to see pretty clearly why the right is really pissed off right now about the impropriety. Because, and if you guys don't stand up and say that this is a problem, like if you're not pointing out like, okay, that's shady as hell, and we need to investigate that to the absolute fullest. Maybe a hand recount in all the places that use these machines isn't a bad idea. If you're not saying that, then you're basically just saying you're okay with impropriety and irregularities as long as your guy wins. And if that's the case, then, oh, cool. So you're okay with irregularities and impropriety? So if somebody hacks the next election and it goes, the other way, like you're not really allowed to complain, So that's all. I've been laughing about that and talking about that, but I wanted to take a more lighthearted approach to one of the many, many topics that are occurring. Yes, this is hacking. Yes, this is cheating and impropriety. Yes, it is. Now, who's doing it? Is it the DNC? Is it the CCP? Is it another spooky person? I don't know. But the point is that it's not secure. Look how many states that this affects. Like, guys, we have a problem here. And whenever they said stop the count, this is why, because this is the kind of shit that's been happening. So, whatever. I'll come back maybe tomorrow. I'll talk about some of the other stuff, the mail-in stuff. Bill Whittle's on fire. He's all pissed off. He actually was pissed off enough for me where I feel like I'm actually in an okay mood tonight because I was pissed yesterday, and he had his Stratosphere Lounge. I saw that and I was like, the fire. And then he had a Bill Whittle now today that was just like freaking. He brought the rage. It was great. But then, it just. I guess it's like, what has been needed to be said has been said. So then I don't want to like completely repeat what he's saying. But yeah, it's kind of funny. This is my video for the Democrats. The other ones are a lot more pissed off. Like I'm mad right now. But what I'm hoping to reach here is basically independents, maybe soft Republicans who just aren't like, oh, we lost, just get over it. This isn't helping, guys. You can't let this kind of stuff slide, because if you let this kind of stuff slide, then we're a banana republic. Let's just forget about the mail-in ballots for a second. The fact this is happening on the electronic level should raise flags for everybody. So, yeah, go ahead, share this video if you want to explain to somebody why we're pissed off. This is probably a good video to start with, because this is item number 30. But it is just as important. It could be an item number 1 as well. Everything else could be above board right now, and the numbers could sit as they are, and then this could happen, and then all of a sudden now the whole thing is thrown into question. So, that's all, guys. Have a good night. Get some sleep. I might not too. I don't know.